And we all do need to take, well, I'm not going to tell you to take a deep breath because depending on what you're breathing, but we will just take a minute to chill as best we can. Oh, hold the outside of your knees. That will help you cool off. And
that's an acupressure point.
Yes, it is. Works. It does work. So I'm doing that right now, and I'm going to shut up, and then we will start after that. So it's really good to see all of you today. I'm happy you're here. I'm happy we're all safe. And Deborah, why don't you start off since you had the most, I already know she had a challenge, so I'm telling her to start with the check-in.
Well, you heard what I had on my plate last week that I needed to get done. And luckily I managed to get my script being worked on for my videos and managed to create the document to send to the website folks to have a whole new school assembly format done for the page. Because my due date for all of that is this Friday. Still needing to do the video to finish up, and my computer crashed on Sunday morning. Totally lost the whole damn thing. And that was my birthday. Yesterday was my birthday, and I lost my computer. And I spent the whole morning with Ronnie, who's my Mac guru, trying to get it together, and then realized it just crashed. So it's been a very challenging experience in the midst of, I was up all night watching the weather, because if there would have been any lightning, we would have had to go, because if lightning hit on Sonoma Mountain, it would just, so we were up all night. Anyway, in the midst of all that, I'm feeling grateful that I got to be out in my garden this morning and watered and harvested, and that I have an iPhone that's sort of like a mini computer, and I'm trying to figure out how to pull it all off, which is shocking. So, I'm in gratitude that I'm here. Thank you.
And just so you all know, she does have a backup. So she didn't lose her work. She just lost that computer. Okay. So be grateful for that. It's a good thing.
Yeah, and when I went into worry mode over that, Ronnie said, well, you would have gotten any kind of messages that it wasn't working, and we know it worked if you didn't get any messages, so go with that. And I ordered my computer today. It will be delivered hopefully next Tuesday via FedEx. And so I'm getting a new Mac Pro 13, not as big as I wanted, but I'm not going to spend the money for a 16.
Nope. And you can get an external monitor for about a really good one for about $400. So yeah, that'll work out too. So it's good.
Yep. So in the mix of it all.
Yep.
And it was my birthday yesterday, and I had a fantastic meal.
See?
So,
happy birthday.
Yay.
And I drank a lot of champagne in the middle of the afternoon.
All good.
Because I am 68 years young.
Wow.
Good deal.
Yeah.
Well, which of my other two lovely ladies would like to go?
Here.
Okay.
I'll go.
Okay.
Fine. Well, I'm glad I'm not in California. Sorry. and I got to spend the night at the coast last night. My daughter was finishing up a mini vacation, so I decided to join them for their last day and night, or their last afternoon and night. So that was kind of nice. And it was actually cold there.
Wow.
It was nice to just get away for a day. So, I don't take days off very often. And I finished my ISBN registration. So I just have to press the button and generate the barcode. I, selected a price point and all that crap. I would manage to create the Facebook page. There was just one little glitch where I hadn't selected the category correctly. And once I did that, I just had to say it was author, and I thought that's what I said, but it didn't like author page. It wanted just author. And then the button came up to create the page. It's like, so I've created my Facebook page for the author page, and people like it. So that's all good. And one of my last test readers, she's actually a professionally an editor, and I mentioned her last week, I think. And so she gave me some really good feedback. Okay. And it's like, oh, I wish I'd used you in the first place. So, but anyway, so I've got some revisions to do and work on, and that's good. So, I'm making progress. So
good. You sure are. Jeez.
And even my grandson started reading my book. So, that was good. He doesn't do a lot of reading.
So, that may change.
He's enjoying it.
Good. Yeah. That is good.
They're seeing a side of grandma that they didn't necessarily know much about. I mean, they do, but they didn't know like all the details and the family stories and stuff like that I shared. So.
Well, I bet that's really fun that, to be able to find that stuff out too. And then
and I know, I'm safe here from fire, but, and I'm assuming my Marin house is. My husband in Vacaville, the fire came really close, I'm sure, to the prison because the whole neighborhood near him was evacuated. I guess it's okay now. And my sister in Nevada City, there was a fire heading her way, and she had to be ready to evacuate, but she's okay now too. So,
oh gosh,
thankfully, every family is good on that front. So,
it's craziness here.
It is.
It definitely is.
Yeah. So,
well, Sue, what's happening with you?
Well, I think last week was sort of like a down week. Just I heard about a couple of COVID-related deaths that I wasn't aware of, and so I was sort of dealing with that. And then over the weekend, I'd sort of invitations out to several people who were on the verge of being evacuated from, like Bolinas, Suisun City, Sebastopol, all these places. And so yesterday Saturday I hosted friends from Sebastopol. So that sort of took my attention away. But yeah, I guess like the biggest piece of progress I think I've made is that I'm sort of seeing how I need to minimize some of the other things I do time-wise in order to free up room to really work on, getting my book published. And I'm not unhappy about it because I think, it'll be sort of fun to do something new and creative. But just stepping away from volunteer stuff is hard. But I'm sort of pledging to do it right here, right now. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not forever. It's not forever. It's just that you may need just a little bit more time than you.
Yeah, I realize
somewhere.
Things are sort of taking up room in my brain that I need to like move aside and just get, and focus on my own work. So, yeah.
Yeah. Oh boy, do I hear you on that one. Well, I'm gonna deviate a little bit because I was gonna share something that came up at my Weight Watchers group on Saturday. It was really interesting. We've been talking about habits for the last 6 weeks, and I shared a little bit about that with you all too. And what was remarkable is we were talking again about micro habits and how if you just make these little teeny changes, it can make a huge difference. And I felt like I'd gotten off track just a little bit, not big time, but just a little bit. And part of it's COVID, because before that I would be at the gym 6 days a week. So that was no big deal. But being left to my own devices, I haven't been working out as hard. And I realized I hadn't been, and it doesn't make me feel as good. And so a couple people chimed in about what they were doing and what they had changed and how they made a decision to do, you know, maybe it was one thing, just one thing different. And I was inspired after the meeting. I did my regular workout, and then I said, you know, I haven't been doing as much weight stuff as I had been. I'll just do a short weight work in addition to my aerobics. And it's the same way with book marketing. It's not about doing these great big grand gestures. It's about choosing one thing and then seeing, can I make that a little bit better? Can I make that a little bit better? And over the weekend, I saw, this is someone that Deb and I both know, Mike Wolpert is videographer. And he's been doing some more casual videos. You know him too. Okay.
I think so.
Okay, so he's been doing more casual videos, and he talked about that and about how some of the businesses that are reopening. And I watched that and I went, that is such a different style than the Mike that I first met, who was over the top, in your face, because he was a sales guy. So he was used to getting told no all the time. So he was always pushing. And over the last, this started happening before COVID. So this wasn't just because of COVID. But he was running a digital marketing meetup with 2 other of my friends. And we said, Mike, you know what? You'd be more approachable if you'd be a little quieter. And so he didn't just, you know, immediately dial it down. He did it a little bit and a little bit and a little bit. And now when you watch his videos, and if you watch this latest one on LinkedIn, it's a conversation and he's not shouting. It wasn't always vocally that he was shouting. It was his intensity was so big. There was no room for us to be in the room. Okay. And this is critical as an author. You can be quiet. You can speak quietly. If that's your natural way to speak, that's okay. And in fact, it might actually be an advantage, because you're then allowing people to come in. You're not scaring them. Because think about how you felt as a kid. If there was a big loud person, okay, I went and hid in a closet. And so when I tell you I was an introvert, and I am an introvert, I'm serious. I didn't want to meet strangers. I didn't want to be around them. And if people are loud now, I usually walk the other way. So you can be just who you are, because you're all yummy and wonderful and good and have lots of things to share with people, but you do not have to shout. You don't have to be bubbly if that isn't who you are. You don't have to be all over every social channel that there is. And the beauty of starting where you're at right now is you can see what fits. You can see what, oh, that feels okay. I'm good. I can wear that. And, oh, maybe I'm going to add a little splash of color. And that was the other thing that came up was this article on LinkedIn about color. There are people, they're called chromatophobes, who are afraid of color. And I thought, I had never heard of it. But it's a real condition. It's a real condition. And I thought about that because I've always been very fearless about putting colors together. Even, you know, like I would put purple and red together before it was a thing to do. So thinking about taking these little stretches, if you do little stretches with your muscles, your body doesn't tighten up. If you take little stretches with your brain doesn't tighten up. It doesn't feel fear. It's these big, Deborah, stop doing that. It's these little things. little things. So if you pick just one thing that maybe you could write for a minute longer than you've been writing, or maybe you could make one phone call. Maybe you've got 10 phone calls to make, but maybe you could make one phone call today. Or maybe you could spend 5 minutes researching today a podcast that you might want to listen to and maybe eventually want to be a guest on. So I'm going to just suggest that we don't have to make huge changes all at once for them to be effective. So that's my soapbox today.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So what's on your minds? What all do you need some support with, or what have you encountered that looked like a bump, or something that was really fabulous that you want to tell all of us about? Sue, go ahead.
So I made a list of the 5 people on like my A list of possible endorsements. And, you know, the thing I realized is that I actually have 1 out of the 5 already with an endorsement.
Oh,
And I don't know. It's, to be honest, like I didn't even connect this, like, because I went through all of my materials about, you know, who's the big name and end of life stuff. And, you know, there are a lot of names, and both in the sort of academic world and then sort of in the popular culture world.
yeah.
And so I have one person already. I already have a endorsement from him. And then I actually have a couple. I know people who know 2 of the other people, and well, actually, I know like 3 other people. I know people who know those people. So, you know, it didn't seem as overwhelming as I thought it would be, because, like, if I ask people to read the book, and then you know, I guess what I'm thinking is the worst they can say is no, they won't endorse it or whatever, right? I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you don't ever ask, you don't ever get anything.
Right.
And if you have those connections, you can ask for an introduction to the people you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And this is something always to ask. If someone says no, you could say, do you know someone else you might recommend that I talk to about that? Because usually people will say yes, because they're no longer on the spot of having to do something themselves. And it makes it easier. So it also helps if you say, would you consider? And then it's not the same as would you give me a review, or would you give me a testimony? Would you consider reviewing my book, or would you consider providing a testimonial for my book, or a blurb for my book? So you can ask in different ways.
Yeah, so I have right now, I have it in Word format, but then it's in the other, like whatever, the book format too. Should I wait until, should the sequence of events be, I go ahead and like print it, you know, publish it and like sort of print it and then give hard copies to people? Or like, I'm not sure what the protocol is for that.
It depends. You want to find out, first of all, would you be interested in helping me? And then I have the book available. It's an advanced reader's copy. I have it available as a Word document. I have it available as a PDF. You actually want it to be as close as possible to what a finished product is.
Yeah.
But you can, so there's different ways you can do this. You can upload it to Amazon into Kindle Direct Publishing and print an actual advanced reader's copy, and it can say that on the cover because you can change your covers. You can do that, or you can send a PDF that says advanced reader copy on the cover. But you want to have something ready. If someone says yes, they're going to do it, you want to be sure you've got whatever flavor they want when they want it. Now, some people only want a physical book. Some people are fine reading a PDF. Some people are fine reading an ebook. So you need to ask, how would you, if they say yes, what variety do you want? Be ready to go with that. You know, you don't want a big delay, but I mean, a couple of days is not terrible, but you don't want to have a big delay. But always ask, and don't just send something without getting their permission. And if you are doing a digital version of it, it's better that if you can, to provide a link so they can download it rather than sending a file, because the danger when you send a file is it can get corrupted. And if someone's going to go to a download, then they're getting it when they're ready to get it. But if it's not really very big, the file may not be very big, so that may not be as serious a situation. And Joe, you just did it. And how did you go about giving copies to the people?
I created a PDF and just sent it that way, and I added a front page saying, with the title and the author, my name, and then just said it was an advanced copy.
Yeah.
And yes, I've done revisions since that. So, but
of course. Yeah.
And like the latest person, she got a copy of the stuff with more of my revisions, and but now there'll be some more. So
yeah. As long as you acknowledge this is not the done deal.
Right.
It's important for two reasons, because things can change, and that's the whole reason you're asking for people to look at it before it's published. But then there's no mistaking that this is not the final before it's published. It's as close as possible. And so if you were sending a book and you wanted people to look at the cover and the whole thing, then yes, it needs to be complete as it can be, and it still needs to say advanced reader's copy. In ARC is the shorthand for that, but advanced reader copy lets people know this is the format it's in right now, and there may be some changes before it actually goes up. And you can still change, as I said, there's still ways to change things after you've published.
Okay, thank you. That's very helpful.
Yeah. And Deb, I know you had some teachers look at your stuff. Who else did you have? You had
Teachers.
Was it all teachers?
Teachers, parents, and then as I was presenting my animated video around to all different groups like Rotary clubs and whatnot, all different associations, that's when the grown-ups started asking for, well, what about me? So that's when I wrote the third book, which is the one for Easy Self-Help Acupressure for Grown-ups, because it's like, okay, I'll give them what they want.
Yeah.
Good.
And what's beautiful, by the way, is that it's 3 books, but the meat of it is the same. It's a lot of the same content for the how to do techniques, the follow through. But then the forward and the introduction and the how to use it during the day and the testimonials that are part of it are all according to the audience the title is about, whether it's for kids and parents, for teachers and students, or for grown-ups.
Yeah. And that goes to writing to market, which is why I said you all should go and look for, at least 5 comparable books. You want to look for comparable books in your genre, comparable books in terms of who you believe your intended audience is. You're looking for pricing, you're looking for what keywords they're using, and the more and this is definitely something that professional authors will do. And you are professional, but you're not going to be making your sole income off of your writing. But professional authors learn early on, hopefully, if they're going to stay in the game, to write to the market that wants what they're doing. And so whether they're doing fiction or nonfiction, they're researching the audience first. They're checking, is there interest in this book? Is this what you want served up? And, you know, like, as I said before, romance writers, they usually pick one niche in the whole cosmology of romance, and they're going to stick with it. So Sharon Hamilton, who is a member of Redwood Writers, 56 books. She writes about Navy SEALs, shirts off, on every cover.
Oh, baby.
And I mean, these are hot covers.
What's her name? No.
Sharon Hamilton. Hamilton. And so that's her niche. It's military, you know, it has the military in it. It's got romance in it. It's got Navy SEALs in it. So it's a very particular audience. And she told me, oh my God, I don't know if I said this to you, romance readers read on average at least one book a week, but many of them read a book a day. So if that's your genre, you better be out there writing, because they're going to be looking for that next book, because they just consumed that piece of popcorn. They want the next piece now. And if you don't supply it, they're going to go find somebody else who did.
Yeah.
So it's important. And that goes to the pricing too. If you price your book inappropriately for your genre, not a good thing. So there's some conventions with different genres. So in a prescriptive nonfiction book, people want to know, here's the problem, here's what to do, here's the solution, and here's where I can find out more information. In a memoir, they want to know, they want to see the story arc. It's still a story arc, no matter what type of writing you're doing. So people want to know, here's where we start, here's what happens, and here's the resolution. So if you, and in romance, if you don't have the couple getting together at the end, you're getting booted out of town. So you've got to pay attention to those things. Really, really do.
Yeah. Can I add one thing?
Oh, absolutely.
It's funny because I was watching an old series from England about a medical practice, and it goes through doctors, but there's romance going through. It's like, and it had 12 seasons, and the last season ended not on a cliffhanger, but with this horrible ending. I mean, it was thrilling, but the two that were about to get married did not get married. There was like a murder at the end, and it's like, well, don't end it there.
Oh no!
It was so you could see that's where it was going, because this one person was nuts. But it's like, that's not how we want to see the wedding. Get rid of the nutter and let's get the wedding done. Anyway, it didn't end. But I love the British, but sometimes their TV shows and movies are a little different than Hollywood. So.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Sue. Yeah.
I was just going to say, when you were talking about numbers of books, I spent some time last week going through the Amazon author profiles.
Yeah.
And I have to say, I was astonished at how many authors, because I was just picking them at random, how many authors had 50 to 75 books. And,
really?
Yeah, and I thought to myself, do they have ghostwriters? Do they have helpers? I mean,
Some do.
Is that that? So what you're saying in the romance business, that's probably not uncommon. And I read a lot of mysteries. I know people have, tons of books there, but this is just Ann Tyler and just
yeah,
famous people. I don't know, maybe writing's just a different exercise for me than it is for, for these people. But it just seems like a lot of people write a lot of books.
Well, they do. But Deb brought up another point that sometimes you can take your core concept and you can adapt it in different ways. So you're not completely rewriting, but it's kind of like, well, if you go in the grocery store, this is my best analogy because it cracks me up. You go in the grocery store and you go to the cooking aisle, you'll find baking soda. You will also find baking soda in the detergent section. You will find it in the cleaning products section. And I think a couple other unrelated things. It's all baking soda. It ain't any different. The one you buy in the big giant container at Costco is the same thing that's in the little box that goes in the fridge. But if you're in the cleaning aisle, you're going to pick up that because you want that to do your job. If you're baking, you want the one in the little box because you're baking something. And if you're looking for it for laundry detergent, you're going to buy that one. So they didn't do anything other than it's packaged this way for this market, it's packaged this way for that market, it's packaged this way for this other market. It's the same product. And it's okay. There's no law against that. It's not, you're not being deceptive. You're simply serving up what people are looking for. But you do bring up another point, Sue. There are writers who work with ghostwriters or collaborators. And I was listening, I think I was probably on Joanna Penn's podcast, and she was interviewing this one author, and he wrote on his own too, but he realized he couldn't write. He's not a fast writer. And to be in the business as a professional, you have to write fairly quickly for the very reason that people finish your book and they want the next one. Mm-hmm. So he started looking at who he had worked with or who he wanted to work with as a collaborator. And he likes doing that. And I think he has 77 books to his credit, but they're not all
his profile.
Yeah, it's not all, from start to finish that he wrote the whole thing, but he's very good at collaborating and he makes the other writing better. And one of the authors I like, Orson Scott Card, who also teaches. Yeah. Okay, he also teaches writing, and he's gone through a major shift in his focus of writing because he now left his church too. But he's collaborated with a number of other authors, and like David Baldacci has.
Oh, I love him.
Yeah. So if you start look at writers you read and see, are they just writing by themselves? Have they partnered with other people? Now, not all books will reveal that they've been co-authored. Patterson makes no bones.
I was going to say Patterson writes a lot with other people now.
He does, but you know what? I still give him credit because he is a really detailed outliner. So when he says this, it's his name and then somebody else, he has input in that book. It's not just he's slapping his name on it and they're just, going off by themselves. And then, there are other people where it's more of a 50-50, but there are many authors that is the way that they work. And it's okay. It's really okay. And some of us, we might have a good idea, but we're not good at, doing the things to make the story come alive consistently. And the more you write, the better you get, because like anything, you start to learn, this I'm telling, I'm not showing. I need to, if I do this, if I write in first person, I get this. The author who was on the extended session talk from Book Passage on Sunday was talking about the fact that when she first started writing, she wrote everything in first person. And I forget who it was who said, when you write in third person, then you have a lot you have a bigger palette, because then you can bring in, you know, the invisible narrator. And she said, now I'm getting back to writing in first person again, but sometimes I go back and forth depending on, I'll start writing and then I see what fits for this concept. So it's okay. You got to start. If you don't get the first book published, you can't do the second. So that's my feeling. And I just asked a question of Amazon. I said, okay, so I've been published in anthologies, and other than my self-published book back in high school, I haven't published my own standalone book. Can I have an author page? So I'm waiting to hear back from them. I believe that I can, but I don't know for sure. So we all start somewhere, and it's okay. What did you have a question, Joe, or did you have something you wanted? Yeah.
Well, Sue. Part of my question was the same as Sue's. You know, how do you ask like people for endorsements that you don't know? I mean, I know a few people that are well known that I will ask, but it's like I'd like to ask Jack Canfield because he writes about transformative change, and you know, I'm on his email list. But anyway, so I'll just, you know, you said he's looking for people, so I'll try that. My other thing, it's interesting now because when I wrote the book, my first chapter was basically, here's an outline of the book. Here's why I wrote it. And here's, you know, because my life was like this, and now we went through this, and here's what I've got now. So it's kind of an outline and why I wrote the book. And then when my editor, you know, then I have a chapter on UFOs and experiences, and he goes, well, you know, you're really going to catch people if you make this one particular story that happened last year. It's like, if you like make that a little bit longer and have that as your first chapter and like make it, it'll draw people in. I'm going, well, my whole life isn't about UFOs, you know, and I'm almost more focused on the magic than the UFOs, you know. I mean, I've had my own sightings, but that was my husband's work. So anyway, but so I went along with this thing, and it's funny because my test readers in my survey, I said, well, which chapter do you like best, that one or the one I started with? And just about everybody, but you know, me, I mean, I liked my own first chapter, and my daughter, and now this other editor, they all picked the UFO story, and my daughter's going, yeah, but they're all your UFO friends, you know, and they're really they're into UFOs. And
Yeah.
So they liked that story first. I go, she goes, but Mom, it's your book. You know, you do what you want to do. And because to me, well, you know, I don't know. So I have to figure that out. You know, I have to figure that out. And like I said, this other test reader / editor brought up some interesting things about wanting more detail for certain stories. And like, well, I hope I can remember them, because that's probably why I didn't do a lot of details, because I don't remember everything that I remember the importance of the thing, but not necessarily every feeling I had about it, or, you know, so I have to go back and look specifically at what she said. And then this other guy who was a test reader, and he is one of my UFO friends. It's like, well, you know, tell more about your husband's stuff. I go, it's not about him. It's like, I've spent 20 years talking about him, you know, and
it's about me.
If you want stories about him, go look at all the reports that I do through my nonprofit. But it's like, so I did expand on like about his case, but I'm not, you know, it would take he would take up the whole book if I, you know, went into all his UFO stuff. Like, it isn't about him. He gets lots of mention, but it's not about him. So people, it's about me. This is a self-care book. You know, so that's, you know, so I just have to flesh a little more things out. And I was, this weekend, it was interesting because not all the grandchildren have read the book yet, but they all want to, and I've given them all their the PDF.
Yeah.
And it's like the 12-year-old, well, Grandma, your next book should be about us, about all your grandchildren. It's like, huh.
Oh.
Because I mean, I'm here for 2 of the 3 births, and I've been around them obviously a lot. You know,
Right.
I'm the most participatory grandparent they have.
Right.
So I was like, well, that's interesting. That could be an interesting book.
Well, I think that is interesting that the editor and several of the people at Reddit said start here. And that is a way to bring people into the action. So you don't start at the, you know, it's not necessarily in a straight chronological line. You start with something, and then then you go, okay, so here's this story.
Yeah.
And then you talk about how things led up to that story. But you always want to grab people right away. You don't want to, oh God, this is really funny. You're making me laugh. The last couple of nights, Gary and my husband and I would sit down and we're going, oh, let's try this movie. And we're going 5 minutes in, we're going, are we going to dump it? Yep. We're dumping it because we've made no emotional connection. We can't figure out what, why should we spend 2 hours watching this? It's
Right,
like,
right.
whoa.
Yeah.
Where if there was some great inciting incident at the beginning, then we want to know, how did they get there?
Yeah.
So you might play around with it. You might just see
And my daughter's not a UFO person. I mean, she's very much into the magic like I am, or she's getting there. It's like, oh, you're coming out of the broom closet like I did. It's like, because I never saw her interested in that.
You're coming out of the broom closet.
But, it's like she would never admit to it until now. And the other lady, I would say, is a more magical person than definitely a UFO person. So it's like, so I can see there's two camps. And of course, the people in the UFO industry are the ones that know me better than the magic people. So it'll just be interesting. It's like, maybe I need two beginnings. But the cover is very much about the magical side of me. It's not, there's nothing UFO-ish on the cover. So
I would say, just want to relate my experience, which, may be helpful to you. So my book was originally, I wanted to sort of be totally in the background, and because I'm addressing people who are sick and dying, basically. And it's all about you. You may feel this, and this is the reason why, and this is what happens during the transition, and so on. And so I wanted to keep myself out of it, right? Because there's a lot of books, I did a lot of research, there's a lot of books that spend, where authors spend like 200 pages talking about their experience, and then maybe they have a few words of advice. So I just wanted to sort of turn that around.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my first version of my book. That's what I wrote. But when I had like two different editors read it, and they both told me that you have to have something that grabs the reader, something personal. And so I wound up like adding this first chapter about myself and my personal experiences, which I was totally opposed to doing, because I wanted to sort of be in the background. And when I've asked people like what's their favorite part of the book, it's always that first chapter, hearing about like what my experiences are. So, which is totally the opposite of what I would have thought. So I'm just putting it out there that, it's just people, I guess, the personal stories sort of grab people in a way that, other things don't.
Well, they do. And Deb, you've had a lot of experience with this too, because people want to know why are you the person to share this information? Why are you the person to write this story? And Sue, you're bringing up a good point. It wasn't, you didn't want your story to overtake the information about how to deal with this stuff, but it gave us a grounding of how did you get into this and why you're the one to say it. And Deb, I don't think everybody knows how you got into acupressure.
And I thought I shared that the first time, but if I didn't. Well, I started studying way back when I was in college, but it never entered my conscious thinking I would do it for my livelihood. I was just super curious, and everything all the information was coming to me, but it wasn't going to be my profession. So I did all this other stuff. And then 28 years ago, I was in a really bad car accident. And I wasn't healing well, but I was refusing surgery because that was not the direction. So we were relatively new to the area. I went searching for a acupressurist, and as my body started just calming and healing, the light bulb came on going, you know this, just do it. So literally at that point in time, I was just like looking at myself in the mirror and had a conversation with my husband, and he goes, well, that'd be interesting. So, and what he actually said, this is going to crack you up, Judy. I don't know if you've ever done this. He looked at me and said, well, I guess that could be a good pastime. Excuse me. But anyway, and my heart just took over with it. And I literally closed up at that point in time, I was a trained mediator. I was been in law a lot. And I went ahead and I was an insurance and securities broker. And at that point in time, I closed my business, gave all my business away, laid off my employees, and went and got my certification as an acupressurist, and then stepped right into furthering, doing more and more study with Touch for Health and Jin Shin Jitsu. And it was like, that was 25 plus years ago.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine not doing what I get to do. And I can't imagine not teaching it, because it was my clients themselves who said, will you just teach some workshops? Because I was always spending time giving direction. Will you just teach a workshop? And that was, yeah. So that's how it all started.
Yeah. And it's laid out in the books.
Yeah.
It tells the story very, very succinctly. This is what happened, and this is the path I came on. And the fact that it was a natural extension of who you are that came out of. And seriously, those are the kind of stories that catch our attention. When we see ourselves in those situations, that's how people connect and relate to us. And it makes it personal, rather than trying to, say, oh, I'm something other than who I am. So I'm curious, what don't you know right now that you wish you did, or that you think you need to know that you don't know? Is that, maybe I said that wrong. Is there something that's been kind of out there and you're going, well, what does that mean? Or do I need to do that? Or what's happening? Is there anything in this publishing journey that feels a little like I still am not quite sure about? Sue.
Yeah, I had asked about blog writing.
Oh, right.
What how important is it if you do it, if you don't do it, or, sort of what's the deal with it?
Well, it can help in terms of your discoverability, but it's not mandatory. And there are people who have been successful and they don't have a blog. They do have a website, because people will go to see, are you legit? But when you do have a blog, you have the opportunity to share information, and you can decide how long those articles are. So some people focus on doing short, like 350 words or 350 to 500 words. Some people, just like with podcasting or publishing anywhere else, they look at, oh, I'm going to publish on Medium, or I'm going to publish on LinkedIn, or I'm going to publish on Facebook, or I'm going to publish somewhere else. The only thing about publishing on another platform is you aren't in control of it. But if your audience is there, that's a good thing. And with end of life issues, there's probably going to be people on Facebook as much as there are on LinkedIn. So, there'll be people, psychologists, psychiatrists, clergy may all be hanging out on LinkedIn and on Facebook. And people who, end users of the information, probably more likely on Facebook. But you don't have ultimate control over who sees your stuff if you don't pay to advertise. So in my estimation, better for you to post on your blog, and then on social, you can say, there's a new article about XYZ, and here's the link. And so you're sending them back to your site where you will have something, either a content upgrade in that article to get them to give you to get people to give you their email. I had to walk through that, because then if you send an email to someone who's raised their hand, they're more likely to read it, rather than when you're doing it when you're broadcasting out on social, you don't have control over that. Now, in addition to blogging, I think, and it is getting crowded, it is getting to be a crowded landscape, but the topic that you have about, what happens when we die, there are so many podcasts out there, I already know, that are established, that getting to be, listening to some of them and then finding out about being a guest, I would spend more time doing that probably than anything else. I always look at where is the audience already. You can always add more information elsewhere, but if you're trying to get to the goal fastest, find out where are people already hanging out, and get in the conversation. And you do that by first listening, seeing what is being asked. Something else all of you should all look at Quora, which is Quora. Quora. Quora is a site where people ask and answer questions. And I know several people who are experts who get paid to answer questions there. And you can get recognition there. But people ask questions, and you can pose questions. So if you want the answer to something related to your content, you pose it on Quora and see what happens. But you also look to see, can I answer questions that are already in there?
So that was
Quora.com. Quora.
So one thing I know is that when you join like a Facebook group, you need to spend a lot, you keep telling me you need to spend time there and become just there and make little comments, but don't share too much of what you want to share because you got to wait. But it sounds like Quora.com would be a platform where you could respond to questions.
Yeah, you can. And here, let me bring it up.
Do you understand why I was saying that?
Yes, I do. But again, just as I'm saying that about Facebook groups or any group, you don't walk in the door and immediately think that you're the center of attention, because that's rude. So you want to be polite. You want to, check out what people are asking. So this is what just popped up. This was the question. What's the grimiest fact about people? And, this is interesting. And I bet each of us could answer this question in a different way. And so people do. So people look at, that happened to be what popped up first. I don't know why that popped up first in my feed, but it did. And, there's all kinds of stuff in here. And you can look at their spaces, so that would be equivalent. I don't think maybe I don't have spaces in mine. Yeah. So here are some topics. And so, again, you can do multiple marriages. You can do former Mormon, UFOs, magic, and with Sue, you can say end of life issues, afterlife. And well, here, let's see what's in life lessons. Let's see what's in, wait, contains, I just read that. Okay, personal growth. We'll go to personal growth because it looks a little safer than the other one did. And let's just see what they're talking about, because I would say all of us are into personal growth. So the top thing in here's a personal growth toolkit. what are principles to live by. So some people are posting because they're generous, and then see, this one's a sponsored one. So, you know, you start to see what's going on. But okay, so I bet all of us have heard of Eckhart Tolle. So if you saw this, you could say, oh, okay, I might comment on that. And it might be about, you know, satisfaction. And each of you could take a different riff on somebody else's comment. And then again, it's a conversation. So you start to see what's happening and hanging out. But, you know, you can ask a question or you can start answering questions. And my friend Deb Carlin answers questions about publishing because she's been in the business for a really, really long time. But she's also, she's an ex-spy and some other things.
Ooh.
You know, so there's some different things in her background that make her qualified to do this. And but it's really funny, you know. Our friend Sally Getch is a technological geek. She's really knowledgeable about WordPress. She answers stuff in there all the time. So you can start raising your visibility by not only posting questions, you can start answering questions.
And are you allowed to put your contact information in there?
Well, you always have a link back to you. If you have a profile.
Yeah.
Yeah. So whatever platform you look at the rules of the road. And just like, and with Facebook groups, LinkedIn groups, any group, they will say either that there's no self-promotion. Most of them will say that. There's no self-promotion. You must be, you know, respect the rules of the group. You can get kicked out if you do the following things. If you're there to be generous and helpful, you're all good. So if you aren't saying, buy my book, but you're saying, oh, did you know that here's a way that you can get to sleep faster? Or the air is really crappy right now. Are you having trouble breathing? Or you might be feeling anxious. We're now into month what of COVID, and what day is it? How do you, you know, it feels like end of life. It feels like end times out there. I'm sorry. It's just really weird. But you can always look at what's being asked. What can I share that is helpful? And if you are constantly revealing your personality, people see that. They see that you know something, and they also see who you are, and may say, you know, I'd like to get to know you because I saw, you know, I see that you're always providing really good answers, or that you've got some really good questions. So the same way I had suggested to Pam Hett to be more consistent about posting in Instagram, to post her artwork there, it made a difference. So not only was she doing something she already liked, but she was starting to have more conversations with people, and she was raising her visibility, and more people started following her because the more she commented, the more she came up in the feed. So so what I'm saying is, if you're a good person, I guess you don't have to be a good person because Trump's all over the page. So if you're a frequent flyer, you're going to be seen more often. But like this weekend, I muted several people. I didn't want to see their stuff anymore. I didn't unfriend them completely, but I said, I don't want to see their stuff. I'm not interested, not my flavor. But you don't have control over who sees you on social. So yes, post, I would say yes, do a blog, but you don't have to do one every week. You don't have to do one every day. You can say, my schedule is going to be once a month. I'm going to do a blog post. I'm going to do an article, and it's going to look like this. Or you could just do a newsletter. You could start attracting people and saying, I'm going to do a monthly newsletter. So you get to pick the frequency and where you do it. But I would more often than not say, do something on your own site and then look at guest opportunities too. I think it makes a difference. And Joe, you brought up a good point too. You said you've got friends who are in the magic realm and you've got friends in the UFO space.
Right.
So what you deliver up to the ones in the magic realm is going to be slightly different flavor than what you deliver up to the UFO people.
Right.
And that's called segmentation, which you all need to understand with your email. If you just send stuff out to everybody isn't interested in everything you say.
Right.
You know, just like probably one grandchild is always interested when you talk about, I'm going to say dinosaurs. But the other grandchild might only be interested when you talk about cookies.
Right.
So don't send one size doesn't fit all.
Yeah.
But you can start with general and then start segmenting.
Right, because my book description, includes all that, so people pull out, they see what pulls, attracts them.
Mm-hmm.
So that helped a lot to have that ready.
Yeah. And what you all can do, each of you, first look and see, is there an established group already in existence? Is there a Facebook group that's talking about this? Is there a group on Goodreads talking about this? Is there something on LinkedIn? If there is, first, go join somebody else's group. But you can always start your own group. I'm not doing it. I've been there, done that. I did that with Meetup, and I am not doing that again. It's way more overhead than I have the time or energy to explore. Plus, my conversion rate from people who went to my free Meetup to the ones who paid was about like this. So it was, the people who came got great benefit from it, but I wasn't building business that way. So you have to say, what am I in here to do? Where do I want to invest my time and energy? And are there financial, costs as well? And I would say do less rather than more to get started. You can always add, you can always hire a VA to help you with stuff, but don't try to be everywhere, because it'll make you very sad very fast, and you'll always feel like a hamster. And then if you're like me, you won't get stuff done at all because you're going, oh, I didn't do that, I didn't do that, I didn't do that.
I need to get going.
Okay, honey pie.
Good luck.
Yeah, and really see the angels all doing their beautiful magic, please, because I've got these deadlines by the
Yes.
day. So
It's all going to be ready when it needs to be ready.
okay,
You know
thank
that.
you, folks.
Thank
Have a
you.
great one. See you soon. Bye bye.
Bye-bye. So for both of you, be respectful of your time and be respectful of where you feel a pull. Because the more you are aligned with who you are and show up as that person, then you're going to say, oh yeah, of course it makes sense that I'm going to do a webinar, and it's going to be about, this topic, and I'm willing to do a free one right now to let people know what I'm doing, and this is how I can help them. But that's only one way. There are so many ways to go. So many ways to go. I know sometimes it's daunting because there's so many choices. And what we've discovered during COVID is the traditional book tour, while it always sounded glamorous, the reality of it never was glamorous, because it meant schlepping from here to there, showing up, hoping there were going to be people in the audience. And if you didn't already have a name, then there might be 2 people there. So, there's different ways to have the experience that are more fun. And, with each of your books, if you have a study guide, okay. Oh, this is a thing. This is a thing. There are online book clubs, and there were before COVID. And even when there are physical book clubs again, if you have a study guide, then when people pick your book, then here are the 10, here are 10 questions, and and you can help them out. And like my client Alice, we're redoing her workbook for Roberta's Rules of Order, which are not robbers. These are about collaboration. And she's been working with a number of nonprofit groups around the country. And some of them have sent, they said, oh, well, we did our version, and here's what it looks like. So, if you invite people in, they will contribute. And you can have fun with it. But the online book tour and the online book clubs, you can speak at an online book club.
Ooh.
It's pretty awesome. I mean, I know this author in Napa, and I read her first book and I went, but she's really good at networking. And so she keeps getting invited to all of these book clubs. And it's fun, and people buy her stuff because, she's showing up, she's providing background information. It's kind of fun. And so I would start looking at that. I would look at, and you can say, I'm available on your website. You can say, I'm available to do online talks about my book.
I have to do a website.
Yeah, well, that's next. Oh, so I got introduced to someone who she does support. And so I'm going to test this out. And as soon as I feel a little more like I am grounded and I understand how the whole thing works, but she does a lot of the back end stuff that I don't like doing.
Right.
And including doing a website. And so I'm going to do a test with one of my other domains. But knowing that that's a possibility, and I looked at what the cost is monthly versus what I was doing, and I think it's going to be a good deal. And my interest in this would be a resource that I would offer to my clients to say, here you go, and I can still help with strategy, but here's the implementer person.
There you go.
Yeah. And then
That's half the problem.
Exactly. And then I don't have to do tech support because I don't like doing tech support.
Yeah.
Yes.
At least, I already have experience with public speaking on all the UFO stuff. So at least I'm not afraid of that. I love doing that. So
Yeah. And what you can do to start is just do a couple of short videos.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
as if someone was interviewing you, or get one of your kids.
I'll have my grandson interview me. He loves to edit. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you put that up, and so
Yeah.
people get to start seeing that. And building, YouTube. Okay, so Google owns YouTube.
Right.
Amazon, Google, YouTube. Those are the biggest databases in the universe right now that we know about.
Right.
Public ones. And so why not use them?
Well, like I said, I already have 3 radio program shows lined up, or interviews.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. And it's just and each time you do one, then again, the same question about how do I get someone to give me a testimonial? You do a radio show, and then you say, oh, by the way, who else might you recommend I get in touch with? Because I'd like to do some more. And I'm certainly, if you like me, I'm happy to come back.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you help the person interviewing you on a show, you are more likely to come back.
Yeah. Well, thankfully, it's 2. They're both, the hosts are both friends of mine, so that was easy. And one of them does 2 shows. I guess they both do a couple of shows, but
Yeah.
I've definitely got, between the 2 of them, I have 3 lined up. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I know, Joe, you've already made an appointment with me, but Sue, you have not. You have a free 30-minute one-on-one.
Oh, okay.
So you just need to, use my
Right.
link, and I put it in the last follow-up email, and I'll put it in this one too. And then I am planning I'm still planning to have a new group starting on Tuesday, September 1, but I don't have people enrolled yet.
Is that the same as what I did before, only it's 5 weeks instead of 4?
It's going to be 5 weeks,
Right,
and
right.
I'm going to structure it a little bit differently in that I'm going to have, it'll be more like that. I'm going to have a topic each week
Okay.
that I'm going to cover, and we're going to have time for brainstorming because I made it into 90 minutes rather than 60 minutes.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, so that was the difference. So I will include that link
Okay.
in the follow-up. And if there's something, if there's an area or some questions, tell me, because I'm perfectly happy following your lead. Because I realize there are so many things to do, and I because I've been immersed in this for so long, sometimes I forget starting at the beginning what it feels like, and it's daunting. There's a lot to
It
do.
feels like there's a lot of moving parts. And,
Yeah.
you know, my background is in operations and banking operations, so I know about moving parts and deadlines and, you know,
Yeah.
scheduling, all that. But it's still sort of like overwhelming. It's a new industry. I mean, for me, like, you know, I'm starting to see like writing the book was like the easiest part of it. And
Yeah.
for me, everything else around that is, you know, is the hard stuff.
Yeah. There's and because there's not just one way to do any of it. You know, if there was, then we'd all go, oh, okay, so I do this first, and then I do
Well,
that. and I do
Yeah,
that.
and as soon as you mention you're writing a book, especially to somebody who's already done one, okay, well, this is how you should do it. Da, 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 da. It's like, and here's who you should use. And, you know, it's like, who knew there was so much information out there on writing a book?
Oh my God. And there's a bunch of really unscrupulous, there still are. We used to call them vanity presses,
Right, right,
and they'll start chasing after you. As soon as
right.
they hear you're writing a book, they will say, oh yeah, give us this, give us $10,000 and you'll get 3 copies of your book and we'll send out a press release.
I know.
That's about all they'll do for that $10,000 too.
One of my clients got suckered into not that much money, but a ton of money. And it's like, they didn't help him do anything.
No.
And he's not a marketing person at all. So.
No, I mean, it makes me angry. You know, the best thing for any of us to do is to get involved with other authors
Right.
rather than just go, oh yeah, I'll just do that for you. And, you know, there's a lot of very generous people out there who can be a benefit. So it's helpful. But I have to say I've enjoyed this, and I think you guys are all off to, you know, a great start. And I certainly want to be here to help you get to where you want to go.
Thank you.
Because you're wonderful. And if you know of other people who are in the process or thinking about writing a book, please send them my direction. I'm happy to talk to them for a 20-minute first to see what's cooking. And if I'm not the right person, I really have no problem saying I know just who I think would be a right fit for you. Because it really does depend on where you are in the journey and what your goals are.
Right. Cool.
It's important. Yeah. Woohoo.
Good.
All right. Well, I'm going to wrap us up for today, and I will be in touch with all of you. And I have to thank you for sticking with me.
Sure.
Yeah.
Been very helpful. Good
We
luck,
will-
Sue, with your book.
You too.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Exactly. So thanks very much. Take
All right.
care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.